Hey, Eric.
Hey, John.
Welcome to Mostly Security
Yeah, episode 36.
36. All right.
Moving right along.
Moving along. How was your week?
Very busy. The office, and I know you're the same. It has been a very busy week, and so I don't feel all that well prepared, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how well I can fake it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I actually used that to my son just the other day. Fake it till you make it. Have you ever heard that song? That saying? No.
Oh yeah.
Fake it till you make it. What does that mean? It means be nice even if you don't feel like it.
That's right.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Parenting advice. So one little tiny bit of personal follow-up. I did harvest honey last weekend.
And what you had guessed you were going to get 30 pounds, right?
Look at you. I'm pretty sure I guessed I was going to get 25 pounds.
Oh, okay.
But I did.
And
I
you
got 30.
There you go.
30.6, at least of the stuff that drained out easily, and then more in the cappings and wax that is all kind of getting hung to dry or to drain. But yes, very cool, very excited.
And how does it taste?
It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad.
It tastes like honey.
It does taste like honey. Yes, it's pretty dark. So I think that means they were visiting who knows what flowers, but not like the clover, which is very very light. But it tasted good. I had some on some toast tonight, and I think we gotta find out how to use lots of honey in recipes. We'll see. Anyway, exciting. Awesome. for the hobby. Anything exciting in your life this week?
I'm trying to think. No, this whole week has been a blur. So
yeah, I agree. All right. Well, I think this week is kind of like DEFCON and Blackhat catch-up week. I think we mentioned that last week. So I chose a few stories.
I got a few.
Yeah.
I mean, there was tons that were interesting.
Wow.
Like the one on hacking the satellite network, but that one was too far above my head, so that's not one of my the ones I picked. But that one was scary. Sounds scary.
I saw the headline but haven't read. I'll have to read that. All right. Well, you got one for me? What you got?
Yeah. So I think the beginning one, because you know how much I love blockchains and cryptocurrencies. The keynote for Blackhat on Wednesday was Parisa Tabriz. I hope I'm saying that correctly, or at least remotely close. She's a director of engineering at Google and head of their Project Zero group. And her keynote was interesting because she actually had a slide that caught my eye that I enjoyed. Was blockchain is not going to solve security problems. So good, correct. I approve that statement. But there are some interesting things that can be done with blockchain, but it's not going to solve all our security problems. Kind of a dig at, putting blockchain in your startup name just to get the venture capital funding, because that's the buzzword du jour.
Right.
But she had a couple other comments about how it was a 4-year project that they've been pushing in Chrome to switch the labeling. We've talked about it before, from non-HTTPS websites as insecure as opposed to touting HTTPS websites as secure. Now everything is just normal. There's a little tiny lock icon, but there's no big green website is secure, but there is a nice big, this website is not secure now.
Right.
One of the other things she noted, which I thought was interesting, was that their site isolation that's now in the Chrome browser
You mentioned that the other day.
was a 6-year project. They started it 6 years ago thinking it would take them 1 year. And then they ended up actually spending 6 years before they got it all throughout and done in Chrome. That was fun. And then she also pushed the key. One of the keys to success in security is to set firm and clearly defined deadlines. And for that, she brought up their 90-day disclosure rule. Now, I don't know if that was Google that kind of started that, or if that was kind of an industry or someone else, and Google just, with Project Zero, said, hey, this is great, we're going to just go this route. I don't know the genesis of this 90-day disclosure rule. But she talked about how they took a little flack from that, but hey, there's a deadline, you should have that. So we can link to an article that has her entire keynote in it. I have not watched the whole thing yet, but I plan to do so soon.
Cool. Yeah, actually, I will do that as well. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, my first one is actually just a little fun one, and I guess semi-related to last week in the sense that it's voting related, but it was just a little one that caught my eye. But it was 11-year-old hacks a government website and changes election results at DEFCON in 10 minutes, I think it was. So, yeah, last Friday, an 11-year-old apparently managed to change election results within 10 minutes. While at this year's DEF CON, he and many other children were offered the chance to hack into a mock-up of a Secretary of State website. So evidently they took a bunch of Secretary of State websites from various states. So these weren't federal, They were states. And this was the kids were offered 13 replicas of Secretary of State websites, and Florida evidently was the winner or loser.
Nice,
I guess depending on your perspective. So evidently they gave the kids a brief intro to here's what a SQL injection exploit is. So. Anyway, this whole article is, of course, the same thing that happens, or at least has happened at, they had like Election Village last year, didn't they? As well, I seem to remember.
Yep.
Or voting machine hacking village, something like that. So yeah, of course, all the voting machine vendors this is very unrealistic, and these machines we haven't sold for years, and. Yeah, but they're still in use. Anyway, 11-year-old. I must say that when I was 11, I couldn't do that. There's not a chance. And even looking, I mean, obviously they didn't have these sorts of things, but even so. Anyway, me and my VIC 20. So, yeah. Anyway, that was my first one. Just a little one and kind of a fun intro, and yeah, fun.
Cool. Well, so I guess jump over to my next one that caught my eye. The headline was "Cracking Voice Authentication for Fun and Profit." Mm-hmm. We've talked a number of times about the cylinders that we have in our homes for voice stuff. And as they evolve, they are evolving to identify me versus my wife versus my kids. And which then, of course, leads enterprising engineers to think, hey, we could use that for voice authentication. Since now I can tell it's dad versus mom or dad versus a kid, I can just use the voice to purchase or do whatever.
Right.
And they used, so it was a presentation at Blackhat that demonstrated how you can crack voice authentication quickly and cheaply. So rather than use huge amounts of compute power in the cloud, they went to try to see if they could do it really inexpensively and really cheaply using open source tools and a very small number of things. and of course, they found the person they went to attack on YouTube, videos of them on YouTube, and chopped out the voice, made sentences and then played around with it so that it sounded a little more natural, and then sped it up and slowed it down, and discovered that they could fool speech recognition things.
Oh my gosh!
Without the actual voice, and so the net of their presentation was, let's not start using voice as one of your authentication mechanisms. Speech recognition is not the same as speech authentication. So that was a fun one as well.
Right. Yep. No, that is a situation as expected.
Yeah. And I think we've talked in past episodes about deep fakes with video.
Yep.
And audio, and the tools are just becoming cheaper and cheaper to put words in people's mouth that they didn't actually say.
But deepfake was about the video, so
right.
As soon as you can get the audio too,
now
you've got both sides.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, my second one is actually one from McAfee, which was from Douglas McKee, and this was I don't know. Did you see this one come across the wire? It was the medical device.
I did. I haven't read it yet, though.
Yep. Nope. This was 80 to 0 in under 5 seconds. So how to falsify medical patients' vitals. But this was basically you mentioned on one of the past episodes about attackers going after health records and things like that. So it's health related at least. But so this was kind of looks like a fun experiment where they went to eBay and bought a centralized central monitoring station and a patient monitor, so they could experiment. It's just a little bit of experiments. So evidently they run Windows XP embedded, so it's old stuff. And although this said that the units they were able to purchase were produced around 2004, so I mean that's 14 years ago. They're pretty old. He said several local hospitals confirmed these models are still in use. So that's one of the things about IoT, and we have a friend down at work that every time we talk about a feature, it's don't forget you have to support that for 5 years. Well, so in the embedded and IoT realm, don't forget you have to support that for 20 years or something like that. Who knows? Long time, right? So anyway, this was interesting to in that the article we'll link actually goes through his mechanism for starting up the central station, listening to traffic with Wireshark, and then these devices must be expecting to be on a isolated network, because it's all UDP traffic, and there is you'll see if you go read the article, but there's some negotiation for to discussion. So who are you? Which one are you? What do you want to do? But it's all in the open, and that's basically what the vulnerability wound up being is, this is all UDP traffic and clear text. So you can inject yourself into the conversation and send packets from another server that's spoofing the MAC address. So,
yeah, that's one of the other presentations that Blackhat also was on. Let's see, the the IoT security issues will lead to a legal feeding frenzy. It was someone who had was an attorney who'd represented plaintiffs in the 2015 Jeep hack, and kind of gave some issues about, or some a legal perspective about, IoT's role in that. And so one of his quotes is great. It says, "Hey, there will be more hacks. The plaintiff's bar has been salivating over IoT. It's going to be a feeding frenzy." So, fun stuff coming for IoT makers. We talked about this a long time. Well, a couple years ago, you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
Gave some presentations on. At some point, governments are going to get involved and clamp down on, trying to produce a $10 thing and skipping the security part, a $10 light bulb and not worrying about the security of it.
Yep.
So,
and then
anyways,
company's gone. Anyway, so this was some nice article by Douglas McKee, and essentially at the end of the day, what they were able to do is spoof the patient's heart rate so that it shows that they heart may be behaving erratically or a flat line, and it's basically the patient monitor is unchanged, right? Because that's the one that's actually hooked up and listening to the real heartbeat. But the central monitoring station, which is would be back at the nurse's station or something like that, is the one where they're monitoring a whole bunch of patients at once, and an alarm can go off in there, and that's the one that they're essentially hacking. So it's very very cool. Very interesting work. That was a good one, I thought.
Okay, so I guess then my last one that caught my eye, I don't know if you remember, it's been over the last year, you'll see this one pop up, that I think it was in Texas. Someone had set off the tornado warning alarms.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so they had basically hacked the alarms and were able to remotely, unencryptedly, or whatever the proper term should be, just trigger the alarms to go off and start the sirens. And after that, another security researcher went to San Francisco and said, "I wonder if I can do the emergency sirens in San Francisco." And he discovered that basically these sirens are communicating over a completely unencrypted, very simple network. And so all these warning systems that are supposed to warn us of bad weather or
tsunami
some emergency that they need to pick up, are relatively easy to hack and trigger.
Oh, okay.
So
he didn't actually do it, did he?
No, he disclosed it to the city and the siren manufacturer, and they have actually patched it. Apparently, they've patched it, and they've done found some similar vulnerabilities to different siren systems in other areas of the country. So, but well done.
Good. Well done. All right, done with that one?
Yep.
All right, my last one then is actually, related in the emergency aspect, I guess, for emergency responders. But this was body camera vulnerabilities. So the police body cam vulnerabilities. This I got from a friend that was actually down at DEFCON, but this is actually a Wired story that where this guy got 5 models of devices and was essentially trying to hack them. Just like the previous one. So he was basically horrified by how vulnerable these devices were in multiple issues, but just all 5 of them had different issues.
Right.
And it was at least there weren't weren't perfect details in the Wired article here, but the first one that I kind of pulled out, at least to mention, was that these are using standard. Some of them, at least, are using standard Bluetooth Wi-Fi, and so they can be detected, and they don't try to randomize their MAC address. They use a well-known MAC prefix, so you can tell when they're on, and evidently, oftentimes the camera might only be turned on when something's actually happening, and so with a long antenna, like a directional antenna, if you see 5 body cameras light up, it could give you warning of a raid or something like that is about to happen. But you could track cops then physically, but remotely. So a second thing was that the contents can, there's no signature on the video stream on any of them. So
you can just tap into the video stream.
You can, and if you were to alter it, or cut out a section, or alter a section in some way, it couldn't be detected with. So no HMAC or anything like that says this is valid data.
That's probably a bad thing.
Yep. And then the third thing I pulled out was that on at least one of the devices, you could remotely access the storage. So you didn't even have to have physical possession.
You could just pull all the body cam footage for the last however much was on the SD card or whatever it was.
That article didn't seem to say exactly what you could do, but they did mention that you could potentially plant malware that they would be able to presumably laterally move when it was plugged into a device, or the footage was somehow uploaded.
Oh,
and
right.
I have a hard time, if you have access, how could you not be able to delete or do other stuff?
If you can plant malware, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. So
basically,
anyway, that was kind of I had not seen the Satcom one, which I got to go read, but that one was the one that most caught my eye.
Yeah.
It doesn't, having said it, it doesn't surprise me, because I don't know.
Those were
I feel
built
like
and designed in the 60s and 70s, right?
The body cameras?
No, sorry. The Satcom.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was meaning once it was announced that, I don't know anything about the Satcom stuff. Once it was announced that the body cameras were hackable, I was like, oh, yes,
of course they are.
Is it connected? Oh, okay. Yes, it is.
It can be hacked.
Or perhaps I should say, is it connectable? Then, yeah. So anyway, there's I'm sure a dozen stories for every one of these we kind of pulled out, but there's some of the fun stuff that was exposed down there at Blackhat and Defcon.
I'm hoping next week is a little less frantic at the office, so I can catch up on more of the videos and some of the presentations and talks.
Yeah. Well, I gotta watch that.
Gotta watch the keynote
that you mentioned. That sounds good.
Yep.
All right. Well, what's fun?
What's fun? So the fun thing, going on my theme, I may stick with this theme for a while, because I've thought of several others that might be fun. Is the first time you ever, or the first thing you ever.
Oh, great!
Like last week was your first car. So this one I thought, because I stumbled across the book, and I thought, well, what was the first book what was the first book I read, like as a preteen? So not high school or college, because there were definitely books that influenced me in my whatever, kind of probably more dramatically in high school or college than as a pre-teenager. But so 9, 10, 11, or, what was the first book you read that you still remember because it had an impact on you? I don't know. Just something. What was the first one? And so I'll give you time to think about that one. But so mine, I remember, was a Roald Dahl book, Danny, the Champion of the World. Did you read that one?
The Champion of the World. No, I read he wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach, right?
Yes.
And the Great Glass Elevator.
Yep.
All three of those other ones I read, but not Danny, the Champion of the World.
So I would throw that on your, it'd be a quick read now, but I remember that one, and it influenced me because basically the plot is it's this caretaker, and he's out, and he actually sneaks out and poaches pheasants to eat. He's a gypsy and he's poor, and his boy helps him. Then he gets caught in a trap because the landowner of the time, it's a little bit, I think this was written in 1975 or 73 or 75, but it was from an earlier time, had set up traps to catch poachers. And his dad got caught and, was hurt. So this boy, who was 9 or 10, which I think was the time I read it, so I was the same age as Danny, would go out and try to poach, and the Mr. Hazel, I think it was the landowner, and he would bring all his rich and mighty friends to his land, and they would go pheasant hunting. And so to mess with him, I don't know what the right word is, to get revenge on him for setting the trap that broke his dad's leg, and now he's in pain, they were going to figure out a way to poach and get every pheasant so that when all the rich people showed up, there were no pheasants to hunt. And how they did this, which fascinated me as a kid, was they took the pain medicine, the sleeping pain medicine from the dad's leg, and put it in raisins. They plumped up raisins in water and put it in raisins, and it would knock the pheasants out to sleep for several hours
while that was going on.
And apparently pheasants loved raisins, or maybe that's just part of the book. So they gathered up all the 100 pheasants, and they hid them in a shack on the property of the owner. Anyway, so I just remember thinking as a kid that was the little guy can win, because I was a little guy. I felt like anyway. So that was my book. So if you haven't read it,
That's
I don't
cool.
even think it's more than 100 pages. It's probably 75 pages or something. But
wow.
It was a fun book. So that was mine.
Nice.
As a young preteen kid who enjoyed reading.
Yeah, well, okay. So I also very much enjoyed reading, and when I was in, let's see, at least 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, at least, which, I guess that would be around that age, I was homeschooled. And I was the kind of kid that, like, I got all my stuff done so that I could steal, really. I mean, let's be honest about it. A couple of quarters and ride my bike down to the mall and play a couple of video games, which would been like, Ms. Pac-Man or Joust or something like that. And then once I had, played the 2 or 3 games that I, for which I could have found quarters, I go to the library. There was a library in the mall, get books and, go, take them home and read them. And so my memories of books around that time frame were like, I can't think of one that like just sticks out, but I remember reading, that's when I read like the Hardy Boys, which were,
right.
I couldn't tell you a single one of the stories coherently today, but, from the distance of, nearly 40 years, that they all kind of blend together. But the other one that I remember was Encyclopedia Brown.
I remember those as well.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and then the third series I would say is Edgar Rice Burroughs. He wrote the Tarzan books and John Carter of Mars. And oh my gosh, did I love the Tarzan books and John Carter of Mars. And may I just say, those books didn't age well.
I haven't read them.
So yeah, maybe don't. I read, I read them many times as a kid, and then I went back at some point in time, not terribly long ago, like sometime in the last decade, and I'm like, ooh, this is really misogynist, pretty racist. Yep.
I remember the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. Those were kind of hand in hand. I think my grandma gave those books to me as well.
Oh, I was only, I don't know how well those have aged. I'm sure they're better. I'm specifically talking about the Edgar Rice Burroughs. Those were written in the late teens, early 20s, 1910 to 1925 or something like that. And yeah, those are the ones that didn't age well.
Right. No, Encyclopedia Brown was great. I also read a lot of Judy Blume.
Oh, yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
All those ones. And, what was the one? Now it's going to bug me. Oh, The Great Brain. Did you read The Great Brain?
No.
It was like 7-book series. It was called The Great Brain.
No, I don't think I did.
And it was about a younger brother. It was from the late 1800s. It was when it was set there. Anyways, those were fun. Those were fun ones too. It was about a kid who would pretty much swindle all the other kids and use his great brain to get them to do his chores and then pay him for it. Things like that. It was fun.
Very nice. Honestly, though, these days, because I've got 2 kids that they've been, they're voracious readers. There's so many great young adult novels these days. It's amazing. And they're also old adult novels too. they're great.
I read a lot of the books my kids read and have enjoyed them just as much as they did.
Yeah, exactly. All right. My something fun. Mine's really small. But I like it could not possibly be more timely, because today is the August 15th, 2018. At 8:15:18. That would be a palindrome. It's Palindrome week.
Palindrome week for
all week, pretty much from 8:11. No, I guess even 8:10. 8:10 to 8:19. We're in Palindrome City. But this particular week is the one week that the entire every day of the week is a palindrome. So anyway, it's Palindrome week, and isn't that cool?
And I'm biting my tongue to not ruin it for you.
All right, ruin it for me.
Only in America or
yes,
do the goofy month, day, year instead of year, month, day, or something rational.
Yes. Okay. Fine. Yes.
Sorry.
Let me enjoy the party in my little tiny world.
I'm a horrible person.
No, you're not a horrible person, but that's funny. Yes, well, I'm sure that Europe can have their own palindrome week some other time, and I can't think of
some other year
on the top of my head. All right, well, anyway, that's what I thought was fun.
Cool.
All right, call it a wrap.
Well, good. Yeah, we'll chat with you later.
Have a good night, Eric. Bye.
Bye.